Hey, what's up? This is Greg and Ryan with Bench Your Addiction, and this week we're talking about showing up no matter what, right? And like no matter how much life's adversities get at you, and what that means to show up in every part of your life, and how that looks going forward.
For
I'll
sure.
start with you, Greg.
Yeah, man. So like we were just kind of spitballing before this meeting, or before this podcast kicked off, and I like what you bring out of me sometimes, man. So it's showing up isn't always easy. In fact, most of the time, like it's like Bill Murray showed us in Groundhog Day, the monotony somewhat of life, and like just like every single day, even though like we're striving for something, and if you look back a year ago, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever, your life is drastically different now than what it was. But there's such small, minuscule changes daily that it just seems like this humdrum monotony, feeling like you're stuck, feeling you're not making progress, or feeling like you're backsliding too, man. Like these discouraging feelings that can happen, because like that's why people don't stick to fitness. That's why people don't stick to changing their diet. That's why people don't stick to doing a cardio regimen, because it's not Amazon Prime. Man, you can't get a gym membership and 2 days later get the body that you hoped for. like, like, it's just not. So like showing up showing up on the days that you don't feel like being there are more important than the days that you show up when everything's easy, because it's the days that it's not easy, that's what detracts and deters people from this, because it's just like, oh my god, I really don't feel like doing this. It would be so much easier to just sit on the couch and watch my Netflix show. It's my day off. Don't you know, I've worked my fingers to the bone, and I'm just gonna take some time off. It's not it, man. Like the best example, real life example I have is my client Ren. I love this guy's story. He's a full time worker. He's a dad. Uh, the other day he deadlifted over twice his body weight,
Yeah.
because on the days that, like, there are days where this man will show up for 15 minutes. He has 15 minutes of being able to come in and do a really brief warm up, and then hit maybe some weighted pull ups or dips or something like that, and then he's got to bounce because he's got things to do. His son's got to go to swim lesson. His other son's got to do this, and like uh, but he shows up. He shows up all the time. He's been my most consistent client for the longest period of time. Period, man. This man, and he, like, when I tell him, I love talking to him, because like when he thinks that he can't do another one, I whatever words that get inspired in me, I'll say something to him, and he'll go in and do the set. And he's like, the only reason I did that last rep was because of you.
Yeah, that's what I like hearing, man. So like showing up for me, man, no matter what, is like exactly what you're talking about. Like I had that exact experience today, man. Like I showed up at the gym this morning and I was like, I don't want to be here, man. It's so fucking early. The sun's not even out yet. I'm just like, it's another brutal leg day, and I was like, oh man. But I showed up and I kept doing it, and I was like, I like to tell myself 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes. I just keep telling myself, then 10 minutes is up. I was like, all right, 10 more minutes. You know what I mean? Like that's what showing up for me means. But like, and then you get the rewards, right? Like, for me, like for my fitness journey, I'm down over 100 pounds, right? And like it didn't happen on the good days. It did, like you said, it happened on the bad days, right? Like the days I didn't want to do it, I did anyway, right? Like the days I didn't want to show up, I showed up anyway, right? Like all the like setbacks and life, and like this season I was competing, and I had a lot of really serious setbacks between like my dad passing in the middle of my season, of my prep season, and like that just threw me off, and you know, life is what it has to offer, and you just kind of push through it. And I thought a lot about what we were talking about the other week, and the story of Atlas, and like, don't wish for a lighter load, pray for broader shoulders to deal with it, right? And at my last show, I didn't win every division that I wanted to, but this last weekend I had another show, and I was able to win first in 3 different categories and get my pro card and like show up, right? Like because I showed up and did all that, right? And like it makes all those hard days worth it, right? Like it's like the validation, right? But I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't keep showing up on all the days I didn't want to, right? And like, I have a coach in my corner, and there was many emails to him of like, man, this is hard. You know what I mean? Like, what do I do now? And like, he's like, just keep showing up, right? Just keep pushing through the program. and we got there, and it's worth it, right? But like if you had told, overweight me that, like, in 5 or 6 years you'd now be like a pro bodybuilder, right? Like that's crazy, right? Like, but I showed up and did it, right? Like, and it's been a long process. And I even went on stage with my like before picture when I went to get my awards. I brought out my before picture. People were like, "Whoa, that's crazy. That's really you?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, that's how we do it. Slow and steady." And it's admittedly 5, 6 years later, right? Like it doesn't just like one day, like, all right, cool, magic, get rich quick or lose 20 pounds quick or whatever catchy headline is going to tell you next that they've got a magic pill. And man, I can't tell you how many clients, they're like a month into the program, they're like, I've only lost like 2 pounds. Am I doing something wrong? I'm like, no. It's like, we're going to continue. We'll increase the speed, but that's a success. You've lost weight, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, cool, we can do that, right?
Yeah, and that's awesome, by the way. Congratulations on the bodybuilding show, man. That's huge. And to be able to take up the before picture, like what that makes me think of is like anytime as an athlete, I knew I could have done better around my training, around my food. Like I've matured. I wasn't necessarily like as a teenage athlete, wasn't necessarily concerned with sleep or the like necessarily the quality of my food. So I'll kind of project some of the values I have now on my previous experience. But so when I was 12, 15, 18 years old, the only thing I really valued was the training, because that's the only thing that I believed was contributing. That's the only thing that I'd ever really thought of as contributing to improving my swimming at the time. Like that's what I was doing at the time. And I can tell you for sure I would lose sleep at night, and I would have this really in like this deep internal battle when it came down to it. Like if I went to a swim meet and I didn't get the cut, or I didn't get the first or whatever, and I knew that I feel like I knew I left something on the table. It doesn't mean that I like if I had done everything properly that I would have gotten the cut or that I would have gotten the first, but it obviously would have been more likely. But I had to sit with that like, oh man, I held on to something, man. Why didn't I go there? Why didn't like in the midst of that workout, why didn't I submit and just let myself endure it? Because it's not like the physical pain was going to kill me. It was just really uncomfortable. Like that's all it was. That's all it was just extreme discomfort. And who gives a shit if I'm uncomfortable? I mean, like, you don't care that I'm uncomfortable. Like, I mean, I'm like, I'd like to think that you care about me, Ryan, but you're not over where you're not over sitting in your gym, like some type of ethereal connection between the two of us. And when I'm uncomfortable, your heart hurts. Like, that's not how that works. I was like, oh no, Greg's uncomfortable, and like you send over. That's just no one cares that I'm uncomfortable. Maybe my fiance, maybe my family, but like at the end of the day, it's what I choose to do with that discomfort that dictates the way that I view myself and the way and like how comfortable I am in my own skin. I make it to the now present day. I make it to the end of my day and I scrolled TikTok too long and I took a nap and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. Like I'm in an extreme situation of just where I shunned all responsibility, which hasn't happened in a long time. But like in those days where I was like, why was I on social media for a half an hour this afternoon watching somebody else's reels? Like, and it's not even fitness related. I'm not doing market research or whatever. I'm just screwing up and like screwing around and looking and ooh, that looks cool. And like, oh wow, that insect is eating that insect. Like, I don't know why it's so fascinating to me to watch a praying mantis eat another insect, but like it's just crazy.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
It bothers me on those days where it bothers me. I was just like, why did I do that? Why did I submit and allow that to take my consciousness? So it's on days like yesterday where yesterday, dude, I struggled. I'm not going to go into it necessarily here, but man, I got some news yesterday morning that just put me just completely disoriented me to the point of I was uncomfortable inside and things felt like they were freaking spinning. And I don't know that I've ever felt like that completely sober. And it was just a completely discombobulating feeling. And I still, like, I took a deep breath, I pulled the laptop open, I gave myself like 5 to 15 minute segments of time trying to like, all right, we're going to do a little bit of work now. And like as soon as I felt like my head was spinning too much, I would just walk around the gym, or I would walk around the sidewalk, and then somewhere around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the feeling finally acquiesced, and I was extremely productive yesterday afternoon. I wouldn't have gotten there if I wasn't willing to walk through being uncomfortable. I could have just as easily said, "Oh,
Sure.
I need a self care day. I'm going to go to the spa. I'm going to eat some avocado toast, and let me get my pumpkin spice coffee." And
Oh
like,
man.
I didn't do that. I allowed myself to be comfortable. I mean, I'm uncomfortable. Realized that I've felt uncomfortable before. This too shall pass, and it did. And then
This
life
too
left.
shall pass. Yeah. Yeah, man. Like I talk to clients about this exact thing, man. You got to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Right. Like that's how we walk through it. And I really like you bringing it full circle. Like this too shall pass, right? Like it's great, man. It's that's what's led us to where we are today, right? Like that's what led us to be who we are in our professions and like help others and do the things we do and be the athletes we are, right? Is continuing to show up and like continuing to deal with the uncomfortable, continuing to deal with these different things that like come up through our life and like you said, man, just learning to like walk through it. And then you had a super productive day, right? You got through it, right? You didn't shut down. You didn't just go on a spa day. You didn't do self care Sunday or whatever people do nowadays, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, it, that's what allows us to show up, right, for others, right, and serve others and be in that place to serve others, right? And, I've been thinking a lot about like after my win about like, what is my purpose, man? Like, what am I doing to change the world in a way that's going to outlive me? Right? I start thinking about this more fundamental, deeper kind of stuff when I talk about showing up, right? Like, I don't do this just for a paycheck, right? Like, I enjoy getting. I'm grateful I get paid. I'm grateful I have clients doing something I love, but I don't just do it for that, right? Like, I want to actually improve people's lives on a larger, grander scale for the long term, right? And like 10 years ago when I first got sober, I was very selfish, right? Like everything was about me. Like I couldn't even fathom serving others and helping others. But like showing up every single day for the last 10 years and now having like 10 years of sobriety and being recognized as a fucking high level athlete and like all these things were just little steps of showing up along the way. And there was tons of uncomfortableness, man. Like I can't tell you how many times like socially uncomfortable, not happy with my status, not happy with how I look, not happy with XYZ, not happy with, I don't know, this goes on, man, right? You know what I mean? Like, even this morning I was like, I wasn't happy with my performance in the gym. I was like, I could have done better. But like, it's like, I'm never satisfied, right? And I think that's what drives me to want to change and want to help others. But like, the point is that we show up regardless, right? We show up every day. We show up for people, we show up for ourselves, we show up for our partners, our fiancés, our families, whatever it is, man. We just show up, right? And like I had an interesting experience the other day too. Like, I posted about having 10 years and one of my gym buddies who I talk to all the time, who I've known for years, he like stopped me and he was like, "Hey man, I didn't know you're sober. I got 4 years sober too. This is my home meeting." And I was like, "Cool, I'll be there for the chip meeting." Like, so I think it's next Monday or the Monday after that, whatever the last Monday of the month is. I'm gonna go to a meeting and go get my chip and speak with him and talk to him because he's picking up his 4-year chip. And I was like, that's really cool. I've known this kid for years and like just never man. Like that's like what the message of showing up is, just being honest, being true to our truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I want to double back to when you said like never satisfied.
Yeah.
I'm never satisfied either. And I used to think that was like some type of curse. I used to be upset, honestly. Like I used to look at other people that seemed content or satisfied with life, and it was like they were relatively okay with where they're at and their living circumstances, and I looked upon that with envy, because I was like, why can't I have that? I'm so restless about everything. Like I'm so irritable sometimes. I'm so discontented, either with myself, my performance, or whatever it is. Like I get so bothered sometimes by these things, and I think I like my perspective has shifted. I'm no longer like I'm okay with I'm okay with never being completely satisfied. I've learned to be able to differentiate contentment and satisfaction. I can be, by the end of today, if I do everything that I want to do, I will be content. Like I have a to-do list, as I scratch all of the things off, I will be content that I made the effort to improve the service or improve whatever it is. Like I made the effort. I will not be satisfied with the quality of work that I bring to the table. Like when I run it, like I'm doing a 5 day challenge right now, and when I do the training tonight at 7 o'clock, I can tell you for sure, like I will be content in knowing that I put the time in and I brought something worth viewing, like worth watching and utilizing, and like I want to provide free like free value, so to speak, to people that actually want to use it and actually want to improve. But I will not be satisfied with the quality that I bring, and that's why. And it's because it's
Yeah.
because I'm not going to be satisfied that the next time I run one of these challenges, it's going to be so much better. But guess what? I'm still not going to be satisfied with the improved or the 2.0 product. Like I'm still not going to be happy with it. But that drives me to continue to make shit better. Like I'm just going to like I will like because I'm not satisfied, because I don't rest on my laurels, and because I'm not just going to kick back and it's like, "Oh, that was good enough." Like it's because of that I'm going to come back to the gym and I'm going to try to continue to get stronger. That I'm going to continue to stay on top of my food, try to make it so that my food's a little bit better. I ain't trying to go pro bodybuilder, but I think it would be pretty cool to compete at the Arnold Strongman Amateur circuit. Like I was like
Yeah.
that's what I have my eyes on. And I have to get a hell of a lot stronger and probably wait a decade for some other people to quit for me for me to be able to get there. I'm looking around at a bunch of 31-year-olds that are really freaking strong, and like I don't compare yet, but um, I'm gonna that's what I want to shoot for, and anything less than that will not be good enough when it comes to my strongman stuff, when it comes to my powerlifting, and whether or not, and I look at that and almost kind of hope that I never qualify, because because if I don't, then I have every reason to continue to beat the pulp out of myself in the gym, in hopes of getting stronger. The day that I qualify, like I hope, like, I mean, that's just going to mean that everything's going to be a lot harder, because if I qualify for Arnold Strongman, then that means that my next goal will be I'm going to win the Arnold Strongman in my weight class. And if I actually win, then that means that I qualify for strongman professional circuit, because like the winner of that competition amateur circuit immediately qualifies for their pro card. Like in the top three, there's perks for finishing top three, but number one gets like you get invited into the professional circuit, and that's just insane. So, and I guess that ties into like goal setting, like always being able to reevaluate goals. But like I said, like I set the sights so high that I don't really have a choice but to try to demand perfection from myself.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like that's what happens, man. It's like I just keep setting myself more and more unreasonable goals at this point in my life, right? Like last year was like, I'm gonna do a bodybuilder show, cool. And then I got first place in like my age class, and I was like, I guess we're gonna do this again. And then like last show, I got first in my age, second in overall, second in novice, and I was like, that's not good enough. And this last show, first in all three in a pro card, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm a pro now. Like next, so I'm already thinking about next year. Like we're gonna do 5 or 6 shows. Maybe I'll show up to Natural Olympia, right? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'll win there, right? But like just set more unreasonable goals, right? Like I love being unsatisfied. I had a friend stop me, and like they're a therapist, and they're like, are you happy with your body? Are you ever gonna be happy with your body? And I was like, no. I'm less happy now that I'm weight fit and cut than I was when I was overweight. When I was overweight, I was just like, I don't care, I'm fat. And now I'm like, I can work on this, I can work on that, I can work on this. But the difference is I know I can do these things now. And so I know what I'm capable of, to like kind of circle back on like when you're like, oh, I could have pushed myself harder for that meet. Like I know that I could do better, right? And like a lot of people think this is crazy, and they're like, well, aren't you like, you're way more fit than anybody you know. Like, aren't you happy with it? I'm like, No, why would I settle? Why would I settle? I'm gonna keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep pushing myself, and keep being harder. And like, I think that's what makes us stand out, right? But like, it really allows me as a trainer and as like a nutritionist and like a coach or whatever, part-time therapist for a lot of my clients, be able to like lead them through this stuff, right? Like, if they're like, oh man, it's really difficult. I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's okay. You'll get through this. You know what I mean? Like, it'll get easier or it won't, and we'll just keep going. Like, but regardless, we're gonna keep going. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
we're gonna be here. And, like, I had a moment this week that like showed a lot of growth in me. One of my clients who's like a super regular client, super great success story, hit her weight goal like 6 weeks early, right? Like doing all the things, like one of those great clients that listens to you all the time. And she's like, okay, I think I'm going to go down to 2 days a week with you because I think I got this. And I was like, great. Here's your at home plan. Here's what we're going to do. And like older me would have been like, oh no, I'm losing money. That's a big part of my income every week. You know what I mean? Like, but new me is like, cool. Here's your at home plan. Let's change your time a little bit. Let's kind of evaluate. And I'm like, I'm happy for her because she's able to do these things on her own now and growing on her own. Hopefully we can, you know what I mean? I don't need to train her anymore, right? And like, that's like the real goal as a coach, is to teach people what they need to do on their own for the rest of their life, right? Like, as much as I would love my clients to work with me forever, it's good for them to grow, and it's good to see that, and it's good to see my own growth where I'm like, okay, cool, it's making room for whoever else needs more help. And that's the way I look at it now. Like, cool, we're making room for the next person that needs the help, right? And what does that look like? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. I've got these like crazy lofty 12-month goals. I'm gonna write a book. I've got a date set for middle of August. I got to finish it by. I got it written up there. I'm gonna give a TED talk in 24 months. I have the date written up there too. It's like, these are super reasonable goals, but what it means is when I set these goals, I got to show up and do the things and practice and work on these skills, right? And I'm already thinking about like, okay, Sunday I normally meal prep for this long, and I do this and X, Y, Z. I was like, what if I had an hour a day where I practice writing? Because now I got to have this other goal. I got to fit this in somewhere, right? And so that's what like showing up looks like now, right? How much more can we get unreasonable?
Yeah. So, like, I'm trying, like, I'm playing around with like something that, like, the way that you said it, because you say it, I've heard you say it several times, and I know you preach it to clients, of like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I go a slightly different route in regard to how I communicate that to people. Um, like, I tell people, like, when people start to feel pain, when people start to get really uncomfortable in the gym, and they try to back off, I'll very, depending on who it is, and depending how, like, what kind of mindset they walked into the gym with, right? Because, like, not every day is a day where you're going to crush it, but depending on who it is, and depending on the mindset and mood, and the tone of the workout, like, and obviously the physical capacity of the person, I'll bark at them like, we're gonna do 5 more reps. Like, in the middle of the set, they're screaming at me, or they're cussing at me, or they're flipping a bird or whatever, and it's like, we're gonna do 5 more. And they'll invariably, I'll get some type of emotionally charged reaction, and somebody saying something like mean spirited at me. And I tell them, like, I'll joke about it and say, "Oh, I came to the gym and my trainer made me work out." It's like, how could my trainer's so mean? He made me do squats. Like, he made me work. He made me sweat. And like, depending on who it is, I'll say that kind of stuff. Or like, to other people, it's just like, that's the, like, where you're at right now is the point. Like, where, like, it is, like, I don't give a shit if you're comfortable or not. I don't give a shit if you're, like, ready for this or not. Right? Quite honestly, like, again, like, tailor it to who I'm talking to. But, like, this is how I talk to myself, and as I've got a select few clients, is just like, we're gonna go there, because I know that they won't unless I pull it out of them. And like, we're gonna do this. Like, we're gonna get in the midst of this burn, and we're gonna enjoy the fire. And
Yeah.
like, it's a matter of shifting perspective, because like the biggest perspective shift in my life happened when one of my coaches told me, like, I was griping about the cardio prescription I had back in 2019 when I was shredding down for photo shoot, and I was griping about cardio, and my coach at the time said something along the lines of, well, I said I hate cardio. Is there any other way around this? And my coach's response was, who made you hate cardio? And I thought that was I didn't even understand the question. I was like, what? I actually short circuited for a brief period of time. I was like, I didn't know what he was trying to say, and it was like, and like back and forth, and he got frustrated with me because I can be somewhat persistent and incessant. And he said, if you hate cardio, that's your fault. And I got pissed off. Like, what do you mean it's my fault? Cardio sucks. I didn't make you hate it. I didn't make you think you hate. Like, I didn't make you think it sucks. I didn't do any of that, man. Like, you're the one. Your brain, your mind, whatever you're associating cardio to be, you're the one that made you feel this way about it. And so, regardless of whether or not it actually sucks, your perspective is making something that's potentially difficult even more difficult, because your viewpoint sucks.
Yeah.
And so he's like, work on that, man. Work on the way that you look at this shit, and stop thinking that you're so bastardized because you have to do some fucking cardio. You have 2 legs that aren't broken. Get on the treadmill and be grateful for it. And so, like, I don't espouse people to get. I don't espouse that people get comfortable in any respect, because if you're never satisfied, you're never comfortable. Right. So I understand the paradox, but like, it's just a slightly different way of looking at it. It's just I want to get in the middle of the 9th ring of hell and look around and go like, well, this is cool. I could put a couch up there. I could, some drapes.
I just picture like that little dog meme. This is fine. You know what I mean? Like, this is fine. I got this. Yeah.
Everything's burning, but you know what? It's okay.
Yeah. It's not as bad as it could be, All right, man. I think we're wrapping up there, man. This is fine, and then we'll kind of talk about that leading forward. And so we'll talk about next week about like, what do you do when you feel challenged, right? And what to do then, and how do you cope, and how do you deal with it? And it's one thing to show up, but it's another thing to deal with these uncomfortable situations, right?
100%.
All right, man. And we're out.
Peace.